perspective and all of that. And how can that exist and simultaneously all this other hatred and like anger and stuff exist?
Mm.
Because it seems a lot like you have people who are happy with less.
Yeah. That's
That
that's
is not.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's why I think I hold the perspective I do hold, because even though I may be born in the United States and in some aspects, in some retrospect, there I know that I am lucky to live where I live. And to be honest, not to get too political here, because this is not one of those episodes, though. I'm not afraid to go there. I'm not afraid to go there politically, but just not right now. Because I think it I think for me, it's like, hey, I live in this country, and this country is so wealthy, and so there's so many opportunities for me. Even though a lot of people actually are, in my opinion, so entitled that they don't actually see what they do have. They're not really grateful for what they do have. Then they only see the bad about this country, which we do have our problems. I'm not gonna lie, but regardless of it all, despite it all, I know what I have. And that comes from me being poor in a very rich country. And being poor in a rich country, that of itself is a privilege. Because the poorest of poor here have way more in the poorest of countries. Like, I never been to a poor country in my life, but I'm never like, because I know I seen the poverty I've lived in, and then I know, and knowing the poverty I've lived in and that there's so much worse out there, it gives me perspective. And also, I have grandparents that also tell me about their experiences. My grandfather, who was a hardworking man, a janitor of 18 years, and had multiple other jobs before that job, had his, like, his struggles, and how he has a disability in which he can't read, and how he had to navigate life back in the 60s and the 70s, trying to hold down jobs for his three kids and my grandmother. Like, I have a perspective, and I was given this perspective, not through experience, but through his own experiences, that life could be so much harder for me. And he would always tell me, he would always let me know how lucky I am that I could read, because knowledge is power. And knowledge is not only power, but it's freedom. It can take you places that he could never go. And that's why he always encouraged me to always keep learning, always keep knowing, being curious. And as long as if you could figure out a way, solve a problem, you can go anywhere, you can be anything. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing now. And like, I may be living a very dead end job, living from paycheck to paycheck today, but hopefully maybe this thing that I love doing here will take me somewhere. And I've had to personally learn how to edit videos, had to learn how to do that all myself, by reading, by learning, actually self-taught, how to be for the most part self-taught on the computer, how to learn how to use the computer, be self-taught on the computer, be self-taught in art and writing. Well, I did go to college for writing, so that's not all self-taught, but it's also self-teaching yourself how to be disciplined, self-teaching yourself how to be, also being passionate and being motivated. And like, that's something I've also had to contend with a lot of my life, where I wasn't always I was a procrastinator for a lot of my life. I was not always a very ambitious person or a proactive person. Now I'm like slowly changing and seeing a perspective, and being like, hey, life's too fucking short. There's so much good in the world, experience it. There's not like, do the things you want to do right now, because like, you may not be able to, in the future. You might as well just start now, start when you can. And I know that's something I've heard a lot, and I've always dismissed it. But once you get into this perspective of like being grateful for what you have, but also knowing that what you have is precious, it takes a whole new meaning of do what you got to do what you need to do what you want to do right now. And I've inherited his experience and his story of being grateful, because there's people who have it worse off than you. He's always let me know that. And I've lived, this may be my own experiences. I'm probably rambling too much, but my own experiences being to the extent of my poverty that I've lived through my whole life. I have lived without heat. I've lived without um, I've lived without heat, hot water, for years. I've had to boil water in a microwave just to get a shower or a rag bath. Like I've never went hungry, but I've had to struggle struggle trying. I had to struggle to um have like food in the house at times, or not food in the house, but like we've had to struggle with like being cold. Like I've had to shiver in the heat. um I've had to we've been homeless a few, like one time actually straight up had to live at a hotel. So I'm not, I would say even throughout my own experiences, I would still consider myself a privileged person. And I don't like saying that word too much because it has a lot of political connotations to it, but I know that I have a lot of things that not a lot of people have. I mean, my family's not the like richest, and we're not maybe like the most stable family, but I take the wins where I can get them, and I'm gonna take advantage of the advantages I do have, because that's what people do when they see, when they appreciate, and those are my experiences. I don't know.